3,500 letters distributed by the union on Wednesday calling on the public to protest proposed shift reductions by Newcastle buses inadvertently included the home telephone number of a state transit officer. Since then, according to the government body, the officer's family has received abusive and harassing phone calls. Yesterday, at the request of State Transit, the union sent this letter to the family, apologising for what had happened. They were told the matter had been put to rest and the two parties could get on with solving the real dispute. However, this morning, this State Transit advertisement appeared in the Newcastle Herald, condemning the actions of the union. It also says legal advice is being sought on the issue. The union believes State Transit is using the matter to divert attention from the real issue.
I believe that this letter was placed in the Newcastle Herald this morning, one, as an act of intimidation towards us in our negotiating session on Monday, and two, as an attempt to denigrate this union, myself and the members of this union in the eyes of the public.
Both the union and Newcastle buses want to put the matter behind them. The drivers will meet with management on Monday in the hope of resolving the running and standing times dispute. When it's completed in February, the Tononi Gardens village will provide accommodation for 80 aged residents, half from ethnic backgrounds. It is the first time in Australia such a centre has been established, and today the local multicultural community unveiled the foundation stone and laid a time capsule to commemorate its construction. The $6 million centre, which has been funded by the federal government, consists of 8 houses, each with 10 self-contained units. Yet to be built on the former William Lyons Hospital site is a special home for the infirm and an activity centre.
Meanwhile, in the Hunter, veterans from all Australia's military campaigns converged on Newcastle's Civic Park. For many, it was a rare reunion, but for some, like 100-year-old Merryweather veteran Albert Averd, remembering the mates that didn't make it back proved painful.
See them all lying dead, and I'm still young. It upsets me when I think of it. Anyhow, that's what war is.
As the bells struck 11, the crowd rose to pay its respect in silence. While many minds were lingering in the past, Lord Mayor John McNaughton was quick to draw a modern parallel. It was a time to remember the sacrifices made in the past and to pray such things would never be necessary again. It may look like child's play, but don't be fooled. These scale model replicas go for between $2,000 and $9,000, and their owners are, not surprisingly, serious about their hobby.
It's a sport as well as a hobby, where the aircraft are all types. There's jets here, there is fixed wing aircraft, there is helicopters, all of which are radio controlled.
The Medford Expo attracted more than 100 of Australia's best modellers, but the weather showed no sense of occasion. Strong southerly winds buffeted this helicopter into submission, while this de Havilland Gypsy Moth, a quarter-scale version of the plane that flew from Sydney to London in 1933, barely got off the ground. All the money raised by the expo will be given to the Westpac NBN rescue chopper, so it was fitting a model of that craft put on a faultless display. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
One day later, June Brislane's battered body was found outside the old station master's cottage in Scott Street. The 46-year-old mother of two died of head injuries. Police believe the murder weapon was a metal spike. Police say a post-mortem does not indicate she was sexually assaulted, although they admit the evidence is inconclusive. Robbery has been ruled out as a motive, as money and jewellery had not been touched. The woman's black handbag, however, was found around 6 o'clock on Friday morning near the Newcastle Beach Pavilion. How did it get there?
Well, that's a matter hopefully time will tell, bearing in mind that that bag was found 6 a.m. that same morning. We're looking at a space of 4 hours and about 300 metres from where the body's found. That'll play a big part, yes.
Information from the public has helped police trace the woman's movements. She's believed to have left the Tattersalls Club and walked east up Scott Street. Police witnesses say June Brislane was seen alive here in this bus shelter between 1 and 2 o'clock on the Friday morning. She was drinking cask wine with a man aged in his 30s. So do you have a suspect now in this case?
Well, we've always had suspects. It's just a matter to what degree they're suspected, but we're certainly narrowing the field down and getting closer to the point where she met her death, yes.
Despite this latest breakthrough in the investigation, police are continuing to ask for more help from the public.
Commissioning a designer to come up with a range that's both practical and attractive is an expensive exercise, so council staff decided to run a competition to save on the cost of the final product. The response was overwhelming, 44 entries from as far away as Nowra and Coffs Harbour. Representatives from Trent Nathan and Mode and Savvy magazines spent all day studying the design proposals, and late this afternoon chose a range designed by Ascancha Calagrides of Chatswood in Sydney.
The design we chose was practical. It's got to be something that both men and women can wear in the office, climb the stairs, be comfortable at a desk, and we felt that that was the most practical design that there was.
The winner not only wins a cash prize and a holiday, she also benefits from the exposure to the experts in the fashion industry.
I think the young people that actually submitted entries into the competition deserve for full-time people within the rag trade to pay them the respect that the entries deserve.
Council staff were more than happy with the final choice.
I think it's great. I think it's really practical and it looks like it'd be nice and comfortable, and also it'll save a lot of money in buying our own clothes and the hassle of jumping out of bed of a morning and trying to decide what to put on.
Seven-year-old Peach Rose played happily with her brothers and sister on the floor of Newcastle's regional library, quite oblivious of all the fuss. Their mother, Leanne Boyd, was launching her first self-published book called Daydream Valley, a story about Peach Rose's fairy tale adventures in the Australian rainforest. Lord Mayor John McNaughton and library manager Chris Williams both praised the book, which is handwritten in calligraphy. Leanne, a single mum, hopes its success in the bookshops will lead to a career as a children's author. And Peach Rose, an avid fan, is sure other children will love the story too.
I think they'll like the characters and the illustrating, and I think the writing they might like.
Although she admits she has not been lucky enough to really meet fairy folk in the Newcastle bush, she is quite sure they are out there somewhere. Rebecca Skinner, NBN News.
Newcastle City Council is still awaiting building application to convert the offices adjoining Henny Penny. And Market Town has yet to find a travel or tourist agency to lease the site. The plan is to enclose the veranda, knock down some internal walls and upgrade toilets to provide a transit lounge running from the car park to Parry Street. And although Market Town is confident it has the backing of coach companies, none would today confirm plans to reroute via the proposed complex.
John Farnham is on the road promoting his album Chain Reaction. The title is apt because after a cautious start, demand for Farnham has been snowballing in recent months. The spin-off for Newcastle is that it's become the only regional centre to be included in the national itinerary. Just 1,600 tickets go on sale next Monday for the December 2nd concert at the Civic Theatre.
This style of attention for Newcastle with these large acts is becoming the rule now as opposed to the exception.
Concert ticket sales are a good economic indicator. When times are tough, people have a smaller disposable income and concert sales often plummet. But the success of big-name acts in Newcastle is more evidence that this region's economy is going against the national trend.
Per head of population, we're doing better ticket sales in Newcastle for national-wide tours than they're doing in other capital cities.
At $33.50 a ticket, the promoters expect the concert to be sold out in one day.
After months of negotiations, the Federation has agreed to accept a wages package offered under the federal government and ACTU's Accord Mark 6.
We will have a wage increase from the 1st of November, which is some week and a half ago, equal to 0.7%, which is something less than half of what we expected to get.
While disappointed at the pay offer, union delegates feel other elements of the deal more than make up for it.
We will have the capacity to embark upon some enterprise negotiations to see increases in conditions and wages.
Also at the meeting, steps were taken to stave off retrenchments at Redhead's Lambton Colliery.
And at today's meeting, the books were closed. In other words, we won't accept employment from outside the industry until those people have a secure position within the industry.
The union has confirmed that up to 80 employees have been told they will be retrenched from the FAI-owned mine. Despite repeated attempts to contact Managing Director of FAI Mining Peter Gibb, it has not been confirmed why the mine is shedding a third of its workforce, although unions have offered this explanation.
One of the things that Lambton has had is diminishing reserves there, but we don't believe that any circumstances warrant retrenchment notices being issued prior to Christmas, as these have.
The PLO called for a three-day celebration to mark the Declaration of Independence issued in November 1988. The army has closed all schools and declared the Gaza Strip and the West Bank sealed military areas to keep journalists out. Soldiers have fired tear gas and rubber bullets to break up crowds, and more than 1 million Palestinians have been confined to their homes. But defiant celebrations continue, with singing and dancing in the street, festive decorations and ritual burnings of the Israeli flag.
T-minus 10, 9. We have a go for main engine start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff. Liftoff of Atlantis and crew in a classified Department of Defense flight.
We have separation confirmed. Standing by for first stage performance call.
What does that get us?
Indigestion.
More than 2,000 young performers from primary and high schools around the state will stage one of the biggest variety shows ever seen at the Entertainment Centre. The opening number features a huge marching band made up of 140 Hunter musicians aged between 13 and 19. The theme of Spectacular 90 is breaking down the barriers, in celebration of advances in world freedom, particularly Eastern Europe. The band, which hails from Toronto and Broadmeadow, will end its formation with a peace symbol. The Russian uniforms, recognition of perestroika and the impact that philosophy has had on the Soviet Union and its allies. More than 14,000 people are expected to see the show next Thursday and Friday. This band has 2 more gruelling rehearsals before opening night.
Already many services have ground to a halt since the outdoor workers' strike began last Thursday. A walkout by the 400 municipal employees' salaried division would have crippled council operations. But although the union had sympathy with the strikers, they voted against industrial action. The outdoor workers are striking over the use of contractors on roadwork and concreting jobs. Today all normal roadworks remained untouched, but contractors were working on Dudley Road, Whitebridge. Garbage bins are now overflowing, though residents who have missed their collection can dump their rubbish free at Redhead or Awabba Tips. Charlestown and Swansea pools are open with restricted hours, but Spears Point and West Wallsend pools are closed. Lake Macquarie beaches remain without council patrols. Though the Arbitration Commissioner today made an order for the outdoor staff to return to work, the union earlier voted to stay out until at least Wednesday.
The drug growers couldn't have chosen a more isolated or more scenic gorge on the Goulburn River, southwest of Merriwa. The site can only be reached by air or by many hours' march through rugged countryside. The crop was well screened from the river. Water was pumped through a fire hose, which led police 400 metres along a hidden gully to the plantation. The crop was ripped up as soon as it was discovered on Thursday. Police seized more than 3,000 plants, mostly in the early stages of growth, but with a potential street value of $6 million. The raid may have destroyed this season's crop, but there's plenty of evidence that last season's crop was a bumper harvest, and Drug Squad detectives judged that by the amount of equipment here, the cultivators had planned to be in operation for some years to come. The plantation was fenced off from native animals by a fishing net and watered by an elaborate sprinkler system. Rubbish and supplies were carefully stowed away. Police were still finding equipment, several hundred metres of hose to provide trickle irrigation for perhaps another crop. Some of the older plant remains stand more than 2 metres high. The growers selected only the best leaves, abandoning the rest. The crop was taken to a secret cave further along the gully to dry on racks, where there's still plentiful evidence of the harvest. Total destruction includes spraying the site to kill regrowth. Already hundreds more cannabis seedlings are emerging. Apart from the illegality of the crop, there's an environmental concern. One of the fears is that the regenerating plants will contaminate the national park.
It's definitely moving down the valley from this point. This is such an old established crop that it must have moved well from this point. And the infestation of this crop will move many miles down the Goulburn system.
There have been no arrests in connection with this crop, which police fear is not the only one. They expect to make similar discoveries over the coming months. But in the meantime, they have no way of knowing how many other crops will elude them. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Behind the idyllic setting of Pacific Palms 15 kilometres south of Foster, a dirty debate is looming. The arguments stem from this document, a 47-page strategy study listing 12 different options for sewage disposal. One of these options is an ocean outfall onto Solito, a fisherman and surfer's paradise north of Sandbar Beach. It's Great Lakes Shire Council's job to nominate the best option, and they say the outfall is out.
Council has very clearly ruled out ocean outfalls anywhere, provided, and I must make this proviso, provided that there is some viable alternative to that.
That leaves land or sand dune based disposal, but locals say the risk of seepage into the closed system of lakes also means environmental disaster.
That is possibly drains into Smith Lakes and possibly also northwards into Wallace Lake. And as a commercial fisherman, I find that untenable that we can have partially treated sewage running off into the lakes.
One of the major drawbacks for Pacific Palms is, ironically, its growing popularity. While the Sleepy Holiday area has a population of just 1,800, that number is expected to grow to 15,000 by the turn of the century. And that means major problems with wastewater and sewage disposal. According to Ross Bowen from a residents' action group, there is a foolproof answer: the spray irrigation system.
Well, this is the preferred option by our group. This is a mini sewage treatment works. And what it does, it treats the water in these tanks, and this pump irrigates it around your yard. So it waters your yard, reuses it on the site.
So far, support for their so-called foolproof system isn't enjoyed in the engineering circles.
As the debate heats up, both council and residents say they want the cleanest option for Pacific Palms. Public comments are welcome, with final mail accepted by council on January 31st. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
In these hard times, it appears tourists aren't travelling as far, staying as long, or spending as much money as in previous years. But they are flocking to this area as an alternative to more expensive destinations.
Whilst the rest of New South Wales is below last year figures, Newcastle is in accommodation terms 5% up. In the day tripper market we are 4% up, and in the conference and convention market over the last 14-15 months we have secured conference and conventions for this year and 1991 worth $11 million.
Port Stephens is booked solid for the Christmas break, with holiday units being booked for an average of $700 to $800 a week. The influx of visitors usually has a flow-on to the retail sector, but this year holidaymakers are watching their money. The Central Coast, Vineyards and Great Lakes areas report similar trends, with many people making the most of parks and camping grounds. The cost of petrol is also a major consideration.
With the cost of fuel, it certainly positions Lake Macquarie and the Hunter, being only an hour and a half away from Sydney, a lot more desirable than perhaps destinations that are further up the coast and that extra tank of fuel.
Our clean beaches are a draw card.
Well, listening to all the people who have visited us, they said, well, you have the best coast in Australia, so we call it Newcastle at Australia's best coast.
Many people are also looking for a no-frills getaway.
People now don't want to be classed as tourists. They want to become visitors of the area and integrate and communicate with the local community, and also enjoy the local culture and experience the local environment.